Yeah, come on. Exactly. Just like my mind is like, I guess my one is anthology. I'm just like, I was a little like there's a whole I think it has this strategy to like as a litmus test for applications where like it's like I have a basic identify with these ones for reading it, publishing it, more like for the few times I do I've been trying to get engaged constantly and support happening, etc. And use that space and just kind of and that's like not for something like this, it's more for like really elite white literary establishment kind of like whereas for bios or here I'm just kind of like just like we should move some people's minds because this is the audience. That's all I really care about. Good, you know what I mean? It's a lot. I mean, I think I'm also part of that. My bad. I can just say y'all, but yeah. Has a like year on summer and we're on something, yeah, you know. And it's good too because when I came, was here for the residency earlier on, and it was a really like intensive environment, and I heard she was wanting to immerse ourselves in writing, and of course, without that teacher, you should take it off, and like, I want to like work with you to make sure like you initially take it off our office. You're gonna not check Slack, you're not gonna check email, like we need to like I want you to set yourself up for like a you should not have to check on this, So I'm really glad that she really is very so I'm like, oh, this is what we got up to, we check in, and she's just like, no, like, I promise you, you're gonna, trust me, you're gonna like it a lot better. But say it again. It's pretty. Yeah. And then I say that she's so sweet. Oh, I'm so excited for you on the class. Yeah, pretty fun. Freaking nice. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. How's everyone? Thank you for being here on a Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? Everything's a blur. My name is Riwa Zinati, and I wear many hats. So I'm a poet, first and foremost. I am also the curator of public programming at the Arab American National Museum, this space which I adore. And I'm also a proud member of AlNadwa Freethinking Society, which is the reason we're gathered here tonight. I just want to say a few words about AlNadwa before we dive in. What's that? We have comments? No? Concerns? Questions? We're good? Okay. We are a nonprofit cultural organization with no religious or political affiliations. AlNadwa Freethinking Society is founded in 2019 in Dearborn, and we exist to uplift and celebrate the innovation, creativity, and diversity of our Arab American communities. We are rooted in social justice and insist on creating a safe space for open dialogue and interchange of ideas without fear of discrimination or persecution. Tonight's event is titled "Liberation is Our Word," which you can see here in our beautiful little flyer, which is, of course, a phrase taken from Pan-African revolutionary and anti-Zionist Kwame Toure's famous statement, where he says, "You can have injustice and have peace, so peace isn't the answer. Liberation is the answer. That's the white man's word, peace. Liberation is our word." I felt it was an appropriate title for tonight's gathering as we continue to highlight that our struggles are the same as BIPOC communities: land theft, resource plundering, and imperialist greed. Our oppressors are one and the same, and our liberation is a constant and unified focus. So again, thank you for being here tonight. We have a great lineup of local poets, and also we have visiting poets. So we're very excited about that. And we also have an open mic segment following our lineup of poets. So please feel free to come up. First, sign up on that big post-it in the back. And please feel free to share your words. Maybe you have music, maybe you have art, maybe you want to dance a little. Do your thing for up to like 3 minutes. We would love for you to share your art. I'd like to begin our evening by acknowledging, sorry, it's been a day. Let me just take a breath. I'd like to begin our evening by acknowledging that we are gathered on the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe peoples, known as the Three Fires Confederacy, and of the Wyandot people. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. As we work, live, and learn on these territories, we must keep in mind the ongoing effects of colonization, colonial state violence, anti-Black racism, and our community's struggle for self-determination in our original homelands: Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, Yemen, Sudan, and. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first poet for the evening, Elise Alusi. Welcome to the stage. Where are you, Elise? Oh, there you are. Please join me in welcoming Elise. Elise has a new book, so please feel free to talk to her about it. And Oh, I want to introduce Elise. Oh my God. My God. Seriously, my brain, I don't know what my brain is. And this is all live streamed, so which is great that, this is recorded. Elisa Lucy's poetry collection, What to Count, was named a 2023 finalist for the Forward Indie Book Award in Poetry. Her work has appeared most recently in Verse Daily Best American Poetry Pick of the Week, Threefold, and in the anthology We Call to the Eye, and The Night, Love Poems by Writers of Arab Descent. She has worked for over 2 decades at Inside Out Literary Arts, in Detroit, and is the recipient of a 2019 Kresge Literary Arts Fellowship, as well as awards from Lisa Refuge and the Knights Foundation and others. Welcome, Elise.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the AlNadwa Society. I'm super excited to be here this evening and to be invited by you guys. I love the programs that I've attended that you've put on so far, and also really love the Arab American National Museum. And I, as somebody who works in nonprofit arts organizations, I can tell you that nobody works harder than the Arab American National Museum to put on meaningful programming, from film series to literary arts programs to artist residencies. So it's an honor to be involved and to read here this evening. And it's my first time reading from my book at the museum, so I'm super excited. Thank you, Rewa, for inviting me. I'm gonna start with a poem called Deadline that was written for a project called the Afro-Dixie Remix Project. It was started by an artist originally from Detroit, and it was a real kind of in-depth examination of the song Dixie, which came out of Southern culture. And so he asked artists, poets to reflect on the history and legacy of that particular song in a variety of ways, and then perform them. So this is my version of that song, and it really looks at the way oppressors make use of language and steal culture and inflict violence on populations. So it's called Deadline. And Daniel Emmett is the name of the person who wrote Dixie, supposedly. Daniel Emmett took his inspiration from weather, took it from another man's pen, purported to write Dixie on March 31st, 1859, leaned into the breeze, took note of clouds shifting, and slowly a refrain cracked like lightning between them. Like ghosts placed this very song into his mouth, fed it to him, line by line, until his pen stopped moving and his lips started forming each simple word, and they became his own. Or perhaps Daniel Emmett was on deadline to write a walk-around. He was on deadline and remembered a song the African-American family in his Ohio town used to sing. He was on deadline and uninspired. He recalled, he wrote what wasn't as his own. The word deadline has its origins in the Civil War, Andersonville prison. The deadline wooden posts along the perimeter, a gun at the ready for those who ventured too close, bodies piled up near the deadline. In that absent prison history, in all our prisons, we lock away our stories, lock away our storied past. At Emmanuel African Methodist Church in Charleston, South Carolina, on June 17, 1822, at midnight, 35 people were hanged for planning a slave rebellion, the original church set up in flames. On the afternoon of June 17, 2015, there was a song, a humming no one knew, a simple whistle, a longing they thought they imagined. Open the window and let out the noise. Sometimes the noise is coming from right beside you. They accepted a stranger into the circle as easy as that, pushed back their chairs, made the space wide, made the circle wide, made the room wide, wide. 193 years to the day of the slave rebellion, 9 people were massacred in Bible study. Clementa, Myra, Ethel Lee, Susie, Cynthia, DePayne, Sharonda, Daniel, Tawanza, a librarian, a senator, a track coach, a pastor, a speech therapist, a student, friend, aunt, nephew, sister, brother. Deadline is a printing term, a workday term, a prison term, black and brown bodies in fear. Deadlines crisscross this country from Charleston to Andersonville, to Baton Rouge to Walkerville, from Cleveland and Detroit to Orlando and Guantanamo. Sometimes the noise is coming from right beside you. Thank you. Okay, I learned how to read my poems off my phone just recently because I am old, and all the young kids do it this way. So I'm quite proud of myself. Now I just have to find them. This is a poem, and I'll kind of read it because we recently, yesterday or Monday, celebrated Earth Day. And the poem is called "I Am Not Your Mother," and it's based on an art exhibit that was reflecting on the notion of Mother Nature and Mother Earth, and the idea that often the onus for fixing problems is put on women and mothers. So this is called "I Am Not Your Mother." I am not your mother. I can't carry you along the eroding beach nor across the dirtied river. I am not the lush landscape, not birdsong you capture on your phone. You can't come home broken. You thought you heard a wail, a wail, a wailing, assumed a woman's voice, stance to view the mess. I am not the domestic trope. Remember the long rope, how you would say many hands make light work, then drop everything, sail back to shore, plate and spoon, diminished fish, dim moon, upended basket of clothes. I won't set the alarm for you. Wake yourself. Read the note left on your bathroom mirror. I am not saving you from danger or endangering. Don't identify me on your species list. What's invasive always comes back. Ghost hand haunting you from the closet, pulling you into the typhoon, contaminated lake, failing dune. I am not lost girl or last either, wandering emptied. Don't mistake my strained eyes or read into the silent road, spring green. There's no hint to be found under my barren blouse, just the house, 2 autonomous cars, cupboards bare, 4 bathrooms, every tub too dirty to use. These are 2 poems from a new series that I've been kind of playing with around issues of sleep, and I'm somebody who's had insomnia for a big part of my life, and so the poems are not really about dreams per se, or imagining what different people might dream about, but rather what they might ruminate about. And my brother had told me a story about his kid's elementary school teacher who sounds a little bit wacky, but she would throw a funeral every year for her 3rd grade students for what she called the dead words. So words that students should abolish from their papers, and so this is called The Teacher Sleeps with Dead Words. Each night, the teacher longs for all the dead words. She carries them to bed on her shoulders like a parent might. About, again, like, I don't know, can I please, what did she say, what did she say? Her blackout curtains and uncut fingernails, cat pawing outside her door. She leaves behind adjectives and concrete nouns, no sticky or unbearable or lost, no boat or fire or shoreline, only words without interest, origin. She erases her father and daughter, her long-lost husband, an unnecessary comma. She rests the dead into the center of the bed, falls into the hole with them. She wants them to know their place, that sometimes, again, many, they lull, but also. Thank you. And then this is called The Punk Sleeps with Paper. Two kind of pivotal things in my young adult life were punk rock music and radical politics. And so I'm going to read this for my sister who used to go to this club with me called the Hungry Brain that I mentioned in the poem. And it was a short-lived punk rock club in the Delray neighborhood in Detroit. The Punk Sleeps with Paper. Crossing the border, my papers are everywhere, articles I read or those I meant to, socialist newspaper, hands off Iraq, the Armenian genocide fact sheet handed out by a man who never left his spot beneath a tree, flyers from the short-lived club I bounced once or twice, hungry brain, memories worth something someday or not, I could care less. Someone took the time to draw Mars. Someone took the time to break glass in an emergency, point out the inconsistencies piling up everywhere, took the time to tell us under flickering streetlights, Angry Red Planet, $3, 3 bands, doors at 9. They covered car windshields of friends no longer alive, the soft outline of a boot across the paper. I try to remember who came out that night, whose face in the crowd. Thank you. And I'm going to end with one more poem called Detroit, a Reminiscence after Elliot Weinberger. And it's a poem that I used to teach and have my students do when I was a writer in residence in schools, and then I finally took a stab at it. But it's playing on ideas that are sort of myths that people create around a place. So, in Detroit, there is no fresh fruit. We eat with our eyes. Our children are strong as weeds. They learn the alphabet backwards and grow up never wanting to leave. Our streets are named for cigarettes, highways winning lotto numbers. In Detroit, we don't stop at stop signs, and traffic lights never turn red. We crave the smell of gasoline. There exists only one map of the city. The mayor keeps it facing the wall in his home, and you must pay a fee to look at it. The casino coughs blood into the night sky, and the incinerator wears a surgical mask. In Detroit, our smiles are crooked, our canine teeth sharp as diamonds, our hard candy sucked to a fine point. When it rains, the streets smell like tortillas and wine, and we play games where you must gather with only those who look exactly like you. In Detroit, vines grow out the doors and windows of the oldest churches, and you must cross the street or travel with a machete to pass them. There are 7 kinds of birds that gather by railroad tracks at noon and dusk. All the gardeners in the city take turns watching over them. In Detroit, our factories sleep with one eye open, their histories written in code on internal walls. All our cats are feral. They live on the roofs of our public buildings. Packs of dogs have been sent to unseat them. For in Detroit, there is a secret freeway with only one car, its headlights dimmed, and the sound of its bass makes roadside flowers grow. The river is full of socks, hijabs, bicycle tires. Old men fish for hours off the sinking pier. In Detroit, we cover our houses with fine mesh and ivy. Wild roses grow everywhere. Thank you so much.
Today's not awkward at all. Okay. Thank you so much, Elise, for your beautiful, beautiful poetry and for participating in our event tonight. I would like to welcome our next poet, who is a visiting poet, who is also an artist in residence at the museum for the month of, what are we, April? Yes, April, George Abraham. But before I introduce George, I would like to sorry. I'm going to share a short poem of mine. And this poem kind of came to me while I was actually making a bowl of tabbouleh. Who likes tabbouleh? Yeah. Right? So this one's called Capitalism or How to Prepare the Parsley for a Bowl of Tabbouleh Salad. First, you separate the sprigs. Then you align the stems together at the neck. Tie each new bunch with a rubber band picked from the ones you've been organizing according to color and composition in the cutlery drawer for years. You wash and wash them under running water, and then you wash them again, and then once more to make sure you removed all traces of home or land, earth and sand. You spread each bundle to dry on a flat kitchen cloth, and when you think they're set, you lay each new bunch on the cutting board and begin to chop. So that's how you prepare parsley. Or it's capitalism. George Abraham Beyhua is a Palestinian-American poet. Their debut poetry collection, Birthright Button Poetry 2020, won the Arab American Book Award and was a LACDA Literary Award finalist. They are the executive editor of Mizna and co-editor of Heaven Looks Like Us, Palestinian Poetry, Haymarket Books 2025. They are currently a Litowitz MFA and MA candidate at Northwestern, and will be joining Emirates College English faculty as a writer in residence this fall. So please join me in welcoming George.
Hey y'all. I'm gonna admit I'm a little bit tempted to do a choose your own adventure set. So what is the room feeling in terms of elemental elements like water, fire, air, earth? What is the vibe?
Water.
I heard literally everything. Earth. Interesting. Okay. I heard earth and air. I heard a few earths and I heard a few airs. So I'll do something that I think. So I'm not going to read poetry. I'm going to read prose. My good friend Sada Aziza and I have been writing letters to each other we started way back in, August, September? Yeah, a while ago. And she's a Palestinian writer with family in Gaza. And unintentionally, our letters started with the question of Palestinian futurity and what we can imagine for our community, and unintentionally morphed into this catalog of grief. And so I'm going to read a new letter that is forthcoming in the nation to Sada. March 1st, 2024. Habibti, can you believe it's March? And still we're gathering in protest, and still we face an unflinching escalation of a US-funded Zionist genocide. Just days ago, we witnessed what Palestinians in Gaza are naming the Flower Massacre, while the still illiterate CNN called it a, quote, chaotic incident. Even when our starving people are waiting for basic wheat, they are being massacred recursively. The image of bloodied flour comes to mind, alongside the image of hungry families waiting for parents who will never return. Many folks have been fasting every Thursday, a calm business started back in December, and since we have not received a ceasefire, many are fasting still. Every week is a reminder of how much time has passed, how many Gazans have been murdered, how long a people can last while, if not being bombed, being starved out. Every week, hunger settles into many of us and sharpens our commitments. Here, I cannot help but think of the brave students at Brown who were on hunger strike to pressure the school into divestment. I cannot help but think of the Palestinian history of hunger strikes in Israeli prisons, and the story from years ago when Zionists would gather outside the walls with grills and meats to torture the prisoners, or hostages, if we're speaking accurately, with the scent of meat. It is March now, and our hostages, many of whom are children, all of whom have been disappeared into Israeli prisons, still do not make headlines. A few weeks ago, a white woman attending the Association for Writers and Writing Programs conference, AWP conference, cut through a vigil gathered to read the names of our martyred kin in Gaza, screaming, "Free the hostages." After she made a beeline to curse out people at the Radius of Arab American Writers table to satiate this hunger to ruin an Arab's day, including those not affiliated with the vigil. After the conference failed to protect us, among the only folks physically harassed by security through the action were Black and Asian folks. It is March, and still institutions are failing to protect us from genocide apologists hungry to pave over Palestinians, living and dead. I returned to the first letter you wrote back in September. Remember when we were writing about the living Palestinian body? The questions of chronic illness, recovery, of the body's place in our collective imagination of future. Remember the conversations at Palestine Rights when we went to a panel with Musab Abu Toha and several other Gaza writers, how one of them mentioned their grandfather, a strong, burly man who became a diabetic after the Nakba of 1948 and eventually collapsed dead one day without warning. Remember our conversations about how we both had similar family trajectories. Though they weren't from Gaza, I cannot help but think of my father's cousin, who shortly after his father passed away, died suddenly of diabetic complications. I cannot help but remember his poor mother, how in every memory of her from my childhood, she is wailing. When my own father collapsed just over 2 years ago, as a rare neurodegenerative disease consumed him from the outside in and killed him in mere weeks, the only way I knew how to process my grief was through hunger. Night after night, I would sneak out to the kitchen in search of the next box of Cheez-Its, the next acceptable tray of leftovers, the next pint of ice cream. Each time I would remember my father in life yelling at me from the kitchen, the living room's view of the kitchen. He always slept in the living room for as long as I can remember, the TV blaring in the background. He would ask why I was eating this late. I remember how he'd make me finish whatever food I was sneaking in his line of sight so I didn't bring it into my room and attract roaches in his spotless home. How he'd use that exact moment of paralysis to shame me for eating, what, a second dinner, or was it your third? How his default instinct in life was to call someone fat, himself included. How he thought this fat phobia was just a kind of tough love because he never wanted his children to die the same too early American deaths of other family members. How he had internalized this false conflation between fatness and bad health and wanted to pass it on to me as inheritance. Those nights after his funeral, I admit I missed his nagging, damaging as it was to me. I wanted nothing more than to see a roach emerge from some unknowing corner of his house, or some other door to slam shut in the distance, or some other sign from his ghost saying, "Don't you dare eat in your room." On the second Father's Day after his death, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I got the news while away in Beirut, and yes, what they say is true, my body did feel infinitely better eating non-US food. When I returned to the US, my doctor congratulated me less on my weight loss and more on my metabolic test numbers, telling me to keep it up. I took the diagnosis as a wake-up call, feeling grateful that my also overweight doctor wanted to treat me with such an optimistic plan. My life had fallen back into carb-watching, daily exercise I attempted before the pandemic. A part of me knew that restrictive diets hadn't worked well, knew that they would only lead me back to unhealthy eating in the long term, but it was the only tool I had for convincing myself I was taking my health seriously. I tried to relish in the benefits of exercising daily, the mental clarity that came with it over any pressure to lose weight, and that kept me going for a while until October came around. I was in catastrophe mode, I told myself, as I slowly made my way back to emotional eating. I'll be generous to myself now and get back on track once the bombs stop, I told myself as I conveniently forget to work out or forget to test my blood night after night. And then the bombs didn't stop. And then my hunger had become habit, a weed gummy at night, a stomach howling from my day's small starvations. Some days it was from accidental starvation, spending the whole day on work I saw as urgent. Other days it was intentional starvation, out of guilt maybe, this physical repulsion at food as our people starve because of the hands that feed me, or maybe it was disgust at my own body, how my daily blood tests became a reminder of how it could and would tear itself apart because of my appetite.
It was just this past week in Omaha, visiting for a long pre-planned teaching gig with the lovely Nebraska Writers Collective, having for the first time since October spent true alone time for myself, that I first admitted this. I had dissolved into an eating disorder. In my spiraling, doing silly Google searches like why do I overeat, after reading through the obvious answers like emotional eating or irregular meal schedules or the ineffectiveness of restricted diets, such as the keto diet I had tried with limited success, I arrived at a study that shook me to my core. This study showed that eating while distracted often led to overeating. I scanned my memories over the past few months and couldn't think of a single meal I ate that didn't involve me glued to my laptop, doing some mainly Palestine-centered editorial work, or glued to my Instagram feed following the news footage from Gaza, or oversaturated with communication after communication, notification, another literary organization inviting me to do an unpaid reading out of their own guilty need to center Palestine, notification, forwarding off another exchange with a Gazan poet asking for publishing advice, notification, now I need to yell at another university administrator refusing to say genocide, or another wavering and silent literary organization for making our lives a continuous living gaslight. There was no separation from my spiraling brain and my endless hunger. I lived my death at every meal. My trip to Omaha was miraculous for many reasons beyond this discovery. From the second I arrived, the predominantly Black and brown and queer organizers went out of their way to make sure I was taken care of. Every single detail of the trip, from the itinerary to the reading framing, was sought out with the kind of care I've only known from other marginalized folks. When I taught a workshop, Palestinian poems were held in ways that felt rare and miraculous. Here, genocide was not a word that wavered on anyone's tongues. And it is so unsurprising that the venue eager to host my reading was the unapologetic folks at the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation, where the generous Miss Karen hooked me arm in arm and gave me an hour-long history lesson before the reading itself connected me with other comrades from Nebraskans for Palestine. Here, meals were punctuated by the kind of caring and rigorous conversation I've come to love poets for, the kind of care that returns me closer to my body. In this backdrop, I found permission to ask how I had gotten here, and the openness to accept the truths of my hunger I had known all along. Here, I returned to the existential questions of our Palestinian American existence. What version of the US did my ancestors dream for me, for us? Where were Black and Indigenous folks in their imagination as they decided to come here? How did we arrive at the present day, fueled by a long history of love and solidarity between Black and Palestinian folks on one hand, and saturated with blatant examples of Arab Americans collaborating with whiteness simultaneously? There is a huge distance between Arab American and Palestinian American, a chasm really, that has never felt so vast to me, though how many of the latter participate in whiteness via access to the former? As I dig further into the history of Jacksonville Palestinians, I find histories of Palestinian shops in the area working to prioritize hiring Black folks in the segregation era, histories at odds with the familial anti-Blackness I've witnessed and attempted to reckon with my whole life. Maybe this is a conversation at least some Palestinians had with themselves before coming to the US. Perhaps some knew, or at least felt, that our existential threat is the neoliberal world order writ large. And the truth is this: most of my family tree, who assimilated from a middle-class life in Ramallah into a working-class life of sandwich shops in the southern US, will have died off by 3 generations into our arrival in America. Most of them will have died American deaths like heart attacks, strokes, diabetic complications, or murder by guns. By coming to America, we gained the legible debts that many cannot have in the necropolitical regime imposed on Palestine. Could our ancestors have known that they were planting the seeds for future generations to enter into our own American suicides? I keep on returning to a conversation I had with my friend Ariel, who, alongside Kamon and Tarek, generously planned and hosted a Black and Palestinian solidarity space despite the AWP horrific conference time. During this time, Ariel raised a question of reorientation. How can we allow catastrophe to reorient our lives, our daily words and actions in a deeply committed, consistent way? How else to imagine witness but to rigorously attend to the impossibilities thereof? The sheer necrotic weight of a country founded on genocide that got us here, yes, and the weight of the unimaginable dead we cannot know, or know we do not know, for the ways imperialism and our participation therewith has annihilated them from our imaginations. What reorientations to our attention are required at the level of the body so that we may survive this in the long haul? What forms of care must we reenact to make possible such attentional reorientations? I trust no name for love but such recommitted reckonings, such impossible horizons. With love, George.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your words and your work, as always. All right, it was a lot. I would like to welcome our next poet. We're going to shift it up a little bit and change languages and welcome our Arabic-speaking poet, Boumediene Al-Sahili. But again, before I welcome our poet, I am going to share a poem of mine as well. So I have Lebanese and Palestinian roots, and my mom's family had to leave in '48. And so for the past several months, I have not been able to write as much as I'd like to. And but I was writing a little bit in October and November, and then I just wasn't able to. So this is a poem I wrote in October 27th after I was scrolling my phone and I fell upon this title that says Taylor Swift is officially a billionaire. So that's the title of my poem. Taylor Swift is officially a billionaire. Headline October 27th, 2023. Should I cover myself in black threads or pour my body into a rose-colored dress to celebrate that I am still alive, that you are still alive, that we can still tell the story and why we're smack in the middle of it? Ya atil, ya ma'tul, that I won't even bother to translate that. I just read that Taylor Swift has been good for the economy. We too must have been good for the economy. Our bodies testing the latest weaponry, blood, wet earth that used to be garden, that used to be field, that used to be meadow, a grassland, a gift, a living. He said he wants to stop binge watching reruns of Chandler smitten by that lady who served in the Israeli army. Remember that? But Chandler's dead. I mean, Matthew Perry, I can't say I wasn't sad. He was young and funny, and we were what happened in 1948. 1917. I must have been 17 when I found my first Darwish poem, a page I picked up in my parents' home. An anthropologist explained that Palestinians have a unique relationship with home. He meant the actual walls and windows and doors. He meant the actual roof and rooms. He meant before the rubble it all becomes, before it is built again or never built. I now understand why a mother gets so attached to things, why it's harder for her to let go of a pot or a suitcase. She was born then. My mother, born in '48, right when the massacres and the fleeing began and never stopped. Welcome Boumediene Al-Sahili, who's a Canadian-based Lebanese poet, writer, and journalist. Boumediene هو شاعر وكاتب وصحافي من لبنان ومقيم حاليا في كندا. أهلا وسهلا.
مساء الخير. شكرا رؤى. شكرا لكم جميعا. وإذا كان البعض هيك اعترضوا إن على قلة الحضور إن الكرام قليل، هيك بنقول عندنا ببلادنا. وشكرا للندوة للفكر الحر التي تجمعنا دائما والتي تحمل هم ثقافة عربية مجددة ومتجددة. أهلا بكم جميعا. اليوم حأقرأ بالعامية اسمحوا لي. أيام الحرب اللي بيتذكروا الحرب بيتذكروا المتيريس اللي كانت بين بيت وبيت وبين حي وحي وصمدت 15 سنة. هذا الحوار قائم بين الناس وبين الرمل اللي انسرق من حضن أمه وانحبس بأكياس، اللي انشقع فوق بعضه البعض وتخبوا وراه ليقوسوا بعضهم، اللي تعبى رصاص وما وقع على الأرض ليحمي بصدره الناس. الرمل اللي ما حدا قال له العوافي، صبح بلا إحساس من قهرته منن، ماتوا عدياته، شرب دمن وغل بالمتراس. قصيدة تاني. هذا الوقت لعبة، سلة قش وعم عبي، ماي ورا ماي ورا ماي، والعمر عم يزرب كذبة ورا كذبة. شو بيفهم اللي قال إنه الدنيا صعبة وبعدين رح نرتاح منصير بالتربة. هذا الورق اللي حامل هموم البشر، هذا الورق اللي حامل هموم البشر وما حدا شافه وما حدا فكر منهم إنه حنون بيشتاق لأمه الشجر وبيعض عشفافه. من عهرهن كبوا فوقه حبرهن أسود مثل باقي عمرهن، وقالوا هيدا القدر وماتوا على كتافه. قراء النعوي. خيال الصحراء بعتقد يعني نحن أولاد الضيعة بنعرفه، هو اللي كنا نلبسه ثياب مشان يهربوا منه الويوية والطيور. خيال الصحراء بعز الصيف واقف لحاله لابس ثيابه، بيطلع عباله شي مرة تمرق تيلعب خياله. خيال الصحراء الكل بيفزعوا منه إلا البشر، بيمرقوا عنه وما بيرموا مرحبا، قلة وفا ما أصعبها. خيال الصحراء ما بيعاتبون رغم القهر، لما بيجنوا مواسمهم بيشلح ثيابه وبيخلع خشابه وبيوهبن. فصل الشتي قاسي وفي ناس بردانة، بيشد عركابه وعلى الساكت بيربي الصبر للموسم الثاني. هاي القصيدة انكتبت للصديقة المغنية أميمة خليل. صوتك قبل الشجر والمي، لما الشمس كانت وحدها وضاجت، قالها شعرك انزلي طمشتك، نزلت وصار الفي. صوتك يوم الندى آدم، الله حي الله حي، ودار الوقت وصرنا بالحكاية. صوتك وقت المطحنة بالدور وما في قمح عكفاية أو الحجر مكسور، خبزنا المندور اليوم ولمواسم الجاية، ولما الضجيج يزيد شو طيب البخور وبصير محاية. صوتك عرب عم يرحلوا، عيون رمل وما في حدا بيدلهن، باب الصبر ما أجمله، ولما الطريق يطول رح يغفلوا حزن القصب. صوتك رد الوقت ع أوله، محى القهر محى التعب وقال العمر جاي. صوتك لما الحرب يا ويل وتذكروا عنتر حن وكسر سيفه وقال لنا ربعه يرجعوا وضحكت وجوه الخيل. صوتك مشط عبلة بهيك الليل، لما مشطها بيضيع وبيصير المراية. بعد بقرا دقيقتين ثلاثة قصايد قصيرة حلوة حلوة مثل العسكر اللي خيط جفونه تيمرقوا الثوار. حلوة مثل العسكر اللي خيط جفونه تيمرقوا الثوار. مثل المطر اللي وفى بديونه وطل بشهر أيار. مثل الأب اللي فيق عيونه رجعوا الصبي عالدار. حلوة مثل صرخة ولد طالع من بطن أمه وبيه عم يشمه. مثل ظالم غمض عيونه وأمن الحراس وفيقن على حكم الناس. حلوة مثل لما التوت وشوش للشمس فوتي ع قلبي غلغلي ونامي وفقنا الصبح لقينا التوت شامي. حلوة مثل قشة غريق مثل تايه بصحراء ولاقى طريق. مثل دوري عم ينقود فجر حتى يفيق. شو بحب لما بتضحكي وبيبينوا اسنانك بحس الفرح خلقان من شانك. شو بحب لما العمر بيكون شتوية وتتذكريني ينزلوا دموعك بعيني. شو بحب لما التوت بعده فج ناطر شفافك حتى يصير عنابة وبيجن وبيحتج شايف شهوتك عم تنقط على ثيابي. كل ما مرق رمان ببالي تنزل مرة بتفرفط خيالي. قبل الزمان كانت الأرض جالسة على المسطرة ووقت اللي صدرك فيق الرمان صارت الأرض مدورة. أدان العصر قالها للميداني صوتها قبل الفجر لما الندى يغفى عتم السوسنة. تنتين صغار وحدة للصديق الحبيب عباس يوسف. الساقية وشوشت للنهر نحن الأصل بس الصيت للبحر. والختام للصديق والمعلم عون جابر مرقة وجن الحبق. مش هم من شمك قبل المهم من ربح السبق. شكرا.
Yeah. I love Arabic poetry. Thank you so much, Vivian. We need more of that. Really, thanks. Another round of applause for. That's good. All right, I just want to welcome you people coming into the audience. Welcome our next participant for the night, who is also an artist in residence at the museum, Fargo Tabachi. A round of applause, please, while I get the really long bio that was sent to me that I need to read out to you guys. Fargo Tabachi is a Palestinian performance artist. Sign up for the open mic while we figure this out.
Yes.
Please, on the giant post-it, I know there's like already several names. I'm excited about that. Okay. Sign up on that giant post-it in the back. I also want to let everybody know, and I forgot to mention this, but I always mention it, that there are QR codes on the walls. If you can make sure that's the right. If you want to donate to Palestine Children's Relief Fund, please feel free to do so.
Hello. I felt like sitting down. Okay. The first thing I'd like to do is read a poem, not by myself, but by the writer D.M. de Prima. So this is Revolutionary Letter number 15. When you seize Colombia, when you seize Paris, take the media. Tell the people what you're doing, what you're up to, and why, and how you mean to do it, how they can help. Keep the news coming, steady. You have 70 years of media conditioning to combat. It is a wall you must get through somehow to reach the instinctive man who is struggling like a plant for light, for air. When you seize a town, a campus, get hold of the power stations, the water, the transportation. Forget to negotiate. Forget how to negotiate. Don't wait for de Gaulle or Kirk to abdicate. They won't. You are not demonstrating. You are fighting a war. Fight to win. Don't wait for Johnson or Humphrey or Rockefeller to agree to your terms. Take what you need. It's free because it's yours. And now I'll read some poems of my own. Of my last obedience to the restraints of the language of bone breakers, to the tyranny inside the gloved hand, inside of I dissolve it now. I offer it to you slaughtered like a purveyor of tear gas, gutted like a sustainer of museums. I beg you now, who from the last will be present, anchoring my every tooth, planted in a garden, fertilized by the ashes of Colombia, rend my body, bring life to Arabs, bring water to wash my body of blood. I will be wrath of, song of, blade and flame of, tooth and nail of. I will entune the remnants of a board of directors inside my own heart. Your hands forgiving the depths of rule, translating the missives of scorpions, the homilies of Molotovs, breathing the desiccations of security cameras, you crater of tongue, you loveliness in retribution, tributary of unpriced goods, of fire and ice, of a program to liberate, of the drowning of conquerors, of an endless intifada, you singer of a stone to the skull of a soldier. Here I beg you with libations of tanks, with offerings of hair, of loss, of the suit of a banker, of boots pried from the feet which carried a corpse to its nest at Columbia. I give you my fears and my hesitancies, to cast into the depths, to unlanguage. I beg you, lower me, my heart, the human signature of a stonemason, bring me low, unmake me, roughly silica dust outlining my shape like an angel silent in the poisoned air. Steady my rifle aimed toward the killing of tree planters, the writing of sins, the breathing of earth, the dreaming of children of this, of more. Sing, empty the earth of song to pour into my ventricled weapon. You make with earth and a million stomping feet. What is low in me make sharp. What is hurt in me make sharper. And what is light in me, and what in me is light. An American writes a poem, sells it to a university magazine run by exploited graduate students. A different American sees the poem online and buys the magazine for $22.95. Of this, a small percentage to the university, little to nothing to the graduate students, whose union is fomenting daily and with the certainty of mold. The university courts an endowment from a conservative billionaire. Certainly, says the billionaire, and drafts a quick proposal for an endowed chair of the study of international relations through the lens of finance. The chair will, in the next year, recommend a strong legal and policy response to the growing movement for a popular boycott of Israel, which an undergrad will be surveilled and suspended for supporting. The billionaire files his taxes, paying roughly 0.5% of his declared income. In the night, his teeth grind lightly as cruelty works through his system like moss. He will wake with no memory of his dreams, which were Artodian, prophetic. The billionaire's taxes go towards the production of this year's slate of US weaponry and are pocketed by the financiers of major capital, their defense contracts quietly renewed. At a banquet, the financiers begin to vomit, the shellfish revolting. A percentage of this weaponry is bundled into an $800 million arms deal with the State of Israel. A new kind of infringement on life is dreamt up, written down, and revised to be voted on summarily. The arms deal pays for the restocking of an arsenal depleted during the last escalation of genocide. The arsenal receives a fresh supply, some 10,000 M16A1 rifles, 350 M204 grenade launchers, 200 M250 caliber machine guns, and an assortment of 30 caliber, 50 caliber, and 20 millimeter ammunition, among others, whose names have been redacted by the linguists. These weapons are dispersed among the various branches of Israel's occupying forces, who are, as a matter of citizenship, required to take part in the military front of the genocide. A routine settler, once they have fulfilled this requirement, begins to serve on one of the other fronts: ideological, academic, cultural, culinary, linguistic, political, social, economic, and the front of the dreaming. One of the soldiers issued a rifle which fires black sponge rounds, introduced in 2015, heavier and thus more lethal than typical sponge-tipped rounds, which are classified by the occupation forces as non-lethal, despite evidence to the contrary, clambers into his AIL Storm border police jeep, produced by Automotive Industries Limited on a Chrysler license, and scrolls on his phone as the jeep rumbles towards Al-Ram. He sees the poem. He reads its lines to himself silently. They enact something about grief in his first language. He thinks about Brooklyn. He screenshots the poem before clambering out of the jeep to aim at the youths throwing stones, most of which are likely repurposed rubble from bombed buildings previously understood by some to be homes. Irritated, the soldier fires a black sponge round into a child's chest, which causes massive internal bleeding that will later cause the child, my cousin Muhi, to die. This is the place analysis ends. The soldier will go home and surrender to the dream of militant preservation. He will never think of this day again. I will think of this day constantly, imagining and reimagining the round, hurtling through the wind, as again an American poem just breaks somebody's heart. Exchange value. My relationship with my father is simple. He lets me write about him in poems I sell for $15 each, then collect in a book I sell for a $750 advance. I send him another $550 this month to keep his daughters enrolled in school. And which of us the 20 yards of cloth? Which the coat? And who values us? Who keeps us warm? I'll just do two more. Craft talk. The first image, a little girl's body pulled out of the rubble. I strike from the poem. Let her rest. Language is a failed state. The second image, my own body stripped and hung by my fingers, less their nails, piled neatly on a nearby table. I keep. The poem is a space to rehearse for the future. The third image, a dictum of power, something like the state is, or the Guggenheim-winning poet is. This I soften and blur. In my weakest moments, I still succumb to the desire for prizes and avoid threatening their keepers. The fourth image, rebel alone, pulled from the mouth of my body, hanging from a hook in the black site. This image I widen, so it envelops the entire page, yellow bile coating the margins. I am interested in frightening you. I do not want to be alone anymore. The fifth image, a drone giving birth to a child with gold leaf on its fingernails. I wipe the mucus off, I give it a name. At the edge of the poem, the baby slouches towards Jerusalem. When it crosses the border, the poem can no longer see it. The drone child becomes an imagined condition the poem has released into the world. I do not know what it intends. I do not know what it will eat. The sixth image, my father dragged into the poem against his will once more. I suspend him here with me. I revel in our togetherness. His nails join mine, our backs are cut, our eyes plucked out. The cruelty of jailers infected my language. Everything I love, I turned to cruelty. The poem now is just another cell. All I know is how to write us dead. Inside this image, I reach out my little toe and touch the image of my father's little toe. The state is crueler than your poem ever could be. I make the poem, make my father say. Thanks very much. I'll read one more poem and then we can move on. Terror counter. Everybody loses me. I get lost. I am lost. A meal for a historical owl. My bones regurgitated, neatly piled in the black site of American literature. I was a we. We were a curse, panic, debt, the United States District Court for the of, wood, stone, panic. Ours not to ever survive, ours to be done to and die. Charge of the grand jury. Everything is extant, nothing is extricable. Grief codified like a promissory note. They have kept me in forms by myself, huddled against the sharp light of perpetuity, skin coated with a thinner film of terror, settling into relations. Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it so the other half may reach you. Fingertips poking through breaks in the line. So lonely I miss being surveilled, so desperate I count every fear for you, sing you to sleep with my hands in plain sight, but I am a we. We are the dirt. We tasted the future. You weren't there. Jaws of the world breaking on our tomorrow muscles, kiss me in language of tunnels we need exorbitantly. We feel entirely alone. We condemn the recent, we are the recent, cannibalized for tax-exempt donations and sonnets. But tunnel takes me to future. Future pries my soul from my teeth and asks it what my name was, and reminds me when I do not know. And when they come looking for us, God willing, we will be somewhere else. And at last I will remember how to forget myself, and in that whale of forgetting, be found. Thank you.
Always loved your work, Fargo. So beautifully precise. Thank you for that. I'm going to share one last poem from me before we welcome our last poet for the evening before we open up the open mic. So when I introduced myself, I said I wear many hats and, poet, and I work at the museum as a curator. I was also for many years working as a copywriter in marketing and advertising in Dubai and in the US of A. And so I have this poem that is called Half Stories of a Brown Copywriter in America. It's just, if you know anything about marketing and advertising in a predominantly white space, you will know what I'm talking about when you have to sell things that you don't give a shit about and just contribute to consumerism in this awful world. This starts with a quote by James Baldwin who said, "No one was white before they came to America." So this is Half Stories of a Brown Copywriter. I don't care about the towing capacity of an F-150 electric truck. I don't care to tell the world in print or online that it lights up a house for 3 whole nights. I don't care about the Super Bowl and how much or how little involved we are as an agency this year and whether people will come together at the stadium or maybe they'll skip this one too. Come up with headlines before the deadlines and get the teams excited for hours into the morning, figuring out ways to do the next Volvo interception. I don't care about Volvo nor its interception. And yet, I sit in my sweats in my home office to come up with ideas for diapers and the latest electric grill. I look at images for that shoot we did in LA for Lockheed, you know, the weapons manufacturing company with the F-16s. And I don't know how to feel about the photos I am shown that are set in California with a landscape that's supposed to look like the Middle East. Do you even know what that means? Fighters in uniform set in a desert-like open space with a backdrop of what looks like ruins. I'm paid to come up with ways to write about brave veterans who fought and killed to protect our freedoms. About whose freedoms exactly am I supposed to tell? I'm so sick of myself I could go to hell. Sometimes I write the full story about the veteran who couldn't wait to fight the terrorists in whatever country he thinks terrorists come from, or the one who wanted to follow in his father's footsteps. Of course, I delete half and send only what's left. I am the irony of an immigrant who sounds like a native, writing about the ones who were sent to die in our lands in the name of all the isms, and what am I even doing here if it weren't for all that? I am so sick of myself I could fast. And then write half stories about the Super Bowl and how much money was put into it, leaving out the bit about the surrounding impoverished homes swept under the rugs to make it. I'm so sick of myself I could meditate. It hasn't stopped raining bombs since we last ate. It's been 6,000 days since the war started and HR sends emails about the ones attacked by the enemy expecting no-brainer sympathy. I type up an entire email in response about responsibility and only end up sending half the story. The designer for the defense company I just mentioned, who showed me the image library, tells me how they made sure they presented Black men and white women because, you know, Lockheed Martin is all about diversity. Thank you. I would love to welcome Wafa Mustafa, who is an Iraqi poet from Dearborn, Michigan, our very own local poet, and a graduate of White State University, where she studied English and philosophy. She's a teaching artist with Inside Out Literary Arts, Citywide Poets, and the Arab American National Museum's Teen Writing Fellowship. Welcome, Wafa.
Thank you, Riva. Thank you to AlNadwa. I'm going to read a few poems. The first, metaphor. Evenly massed between the matter of two names is an ontological choir, a bold error, that if not for the atavistic and an oral tenor is always a sliver of the same, is never any different from the psychology of fruit, that flex of genius in the inflecting brute, who at the time of time stresses a vowel upon clay, when to end the nail indents again, how to make of water more water, and of wind more flame. Then the labyrinth and its asymptote thinks hindsight arose, or life, like life, is like any other, alone and alone. Inference as a secret message. In the plume of the redacted, how can silence be a poem? The children answer with anything can happen. We potentiate a blueprint for attention, document together the artifacts of how, of why, each of their metaphors venerating what happens to a heart. It melts, it shatters, it falls, it's so vulnerable to sequence. And unpluralized by their logos, become a conference of immediacy made entirely of shock, of awe. Only ruins express the fact completely, I think. I try not to teach this. Say instead that poetry is a gesture toward, even when walking into and away, and always from some semblance of the lover. The children wonder about the black I wear. I wonder about the condition of thus, how the metaphysical is a halfway house for sadness to rehabilitate, how black is space enough to remember. I try not to teach this. The architect of the curve stands on a precipice, conscripts the feminine volute as we lineate the unfathomable on each end of essence. We built from this. My nephew says we near the point of jazz when the mother tongue dies. No need to cardamom and absence, nothing can be preserved. I learned from this. My kin, so messianic with future, says this with my father's eyes, and a smile so signature to tribe. I catalog each of his softnesses and tread. Bird into the wingspan of valleys. Like Abbas ibn Firnas, I become a monument of flight and welcome a new Babaldom. I try to teach this. Taqwa's fragments. Part city, part fracture. Your honeyed phoneme brails the day spent on an accident. A midsummer yawn that held its breath to lecture stone. To show the very inside of a threshold how to brim the wide welcome of letting go. To aggregate sesame or sift the 7 sides of every story told by silence. How there is still all of silence to stay suspended between velour and velvet. Part cautious, part conscious, you go salting the corners of your mind like your mother did the house. Your welly of conjuncting matter with thread or bread, and any either the brocade of never, or her shoulders that cleave day from night with a single letter. Part loyalty, part death, you odyssey toward a late maqam, and finally you are fate's accomplice, waltzing in an oblique orbit to a glottal stop, and yes, your point is prone to everything. It can milk steel from winter, and maybe even emancipate the daughter of hindsight from the time of time, until eventually, and only, the mother and the tree. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Wafat Mustafa. It was too short. I was like, more Wafat, where's Wafat? That was beautiful, thank you.
Before we start, can you make an announcement?
Yes, we want to make an announcement before we begin our open mic segment. Would you like to share something, Dr. Abbas?
Yeah. Just.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for supporting this event. I'd like to let everybody know that we have an event coming up on May 13th. Ilan Pape is visiting Detroit. He is here. He's going to have a presentation at Bint Jbeil Cultural Center. There's a lot of organizations in the Detroit area are supporting this event. So please take note that it is May 13th at 6:30 at Bint Jbeil Center. We would love to see you there and support that event as well. As you know, Ilan Pape wrote about the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian in Palestine. So he is one of those historians who have the record, who worked on the record, who really documented the record of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so May 13, pencil it into your schedules. Who's not familiar with Ilan Pape? Nobody years to like raise their It's like, look him up, he's great. He's an Israeli anti-Zionist historian and scholar. So we will keep you posted about the time and event again. So now it's open mic. Woo! All right, we have a list of names and I'm gonna just randomly pick the names. I kind of took a quick peek at all the names that are listed, and I would love to start with Khadija Muhammad. I cannot see you, so I can't see anybody by the way. But, welcome, Khadija, who is a wonderful team member of mine, by the way, at the museum. I'll show it. Thank you so much, Adua. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Khadija Muhammad. I have not performed in a minute, so I'm kind of a little rusty, but today I wanted to share a piece called Between. It talks about kind of identity and the struggle of finding home and belonging, and my struggle of being both Sudanese and American. And so yeah, I'll just start, but before I start, I want to make something that you'll notice in the poem. I will be referring to the word Azza a lot. The word Azza was a code word that Sudanese people used to refer to Sudan when we were colonized by the British, because we didn't want them to know what we were talking about. So we would say Azza. So you would hear me talking about Azza, and I'm referring to Sudan. So, yeah, Azza, I still hate water. This past summer, I just went back to Sudan after 12 years of being gone, after 12 years of trying to figure out where I belong, after 12 years of trying to hold on to my motherland, to my Arabic tongue, my culture, and what I remember of Sudan. Trying to hold on to the slowly dissipating memories of home. I didn't know what to expect, didn't know if my family would accept or reject me, didn't know if I was still Sudanese enough. We land in the airport in Khartoum, and I rush to the line with a sign above it that says, citizens. My eyes glistening with tears of joy that I'm finally back home, or where I thought is home, back to where I was born. And when I got to the counter, I was immediately encountered by a letter of rejection. He asked to see my Sudanese passport to prove my identity, and it didn't dawn on me that my passport was no longer green, rather it was navy blue when stamped on it as American dream. He looked at me and said, "This isn't the line where you belong." He then pointed to the line with a sign above it that said, foreigners. I wanted to scream, no, you're wrong. In America, I also don't belong, so where am I supposed to go when in both lands I can't claim home? Memories immediately flooded back to that one time when I was 6 years old and when my cousin suggested we go swim in the body of water that gave birth to us. I remember darkness all around me when my foot slipped and I fell underneath, struggling to breathe, gasping for air, hoping someone hears my silent screams. No, I'm falling. No, I'm sinking. No, I'm drowning. I was drowning in the Nile, and now I'm still drowning in denial of which identities I'm supposed to be. Drowning in denial of what society tells me. Trying to swim between American and Sudanese, between two lands that were never meant to meet, between chaos and peace, between Nubia Mountains and the Statue of Liberty, between two cultures, two ties, between two mountains that slowly collide, between Arabic tongue and black skin, between Alif Bata and ABC, between black dress and white dough, between pizza and عصير بملح rope, between لا كده عيب and no that's okay, between وب علي and oh my god, between Waradi and Tupac, between WhatsApp calls and TV screens. between immigrant and citizen, between Arab and not Arab enough, between African and not African enough, between Muslim and not Muslim enough, between lost and found, between somewhere and nowhere, drowning between water and air, because how can I breathe when in both lands I am suffocating? تعرف يا عزة أنا لسه خايفة من الموية. يا عزة I hate water till this day. يا عزة I'm tired of drowning in between. يا عزة with you I'm yearning to be. يا عزة help me. The waves stopped. I find myself now floating in the Nile. My eyelids felt heavy and I couldn't open them, but I knew my body swayed with the sound. I tried to listen and hear the sound, but somehow my ears were still underwater. I can only hear muffled screams and muffled voices. I can only see suppressed dreams and vibrant darkness. The more the sound grew louder, the more that I tried to lift my head above water. And after years, I decided to just let go. Stop struggling, stop resisting, stop fighting. I let the waves guide me. I let the tides of change take me. My eyes and body all weighed heavy, but I still moved steady. My body moved, my body swayed. My body moved to the shore that now didn't seem too far away. The voices of children, voices of women, voices of Kandaka's future, past and present, the zaghrutas of my habobas, the melody of hope, the lullaby of resistance, cradling me back and forth. The voices of those who have awakened the revolution, slowly bringing me to shore. Ya Azza, I am so close. They tried to tie bricks to my ankles to sink me, to stop me, to silence me. But what they didn't know is that you can try to drown bodies, but you can't drown truth. Because I'm still here today. We're still here today. I can hear everything loud and clear. أنا أفريقي وأنا سوداني أنا أفريقي وأنا سوداني أنا أفريقي وأنا سوداني. I opened my eyes only to find my cousin pulling me out of the water. He held me near, told me you were gone for 12 years, but I'm now glad you're here. Ya Azza, I still hate water till this day, but it was necessary to getting me to my destination because what I now understand is that water connects and it does not separate. Time doesn't run, but rather it waits, you see, just because I'm in between two bodies of water doesn't mean I can't have two shores. And just because I'm in between American and Sudanese doesn't mean I'm not enough for both. Because you see, in between sinking, I learned how to rise. In between drowning, I learned how to float. In between American, I learned how to be Sudanese. And in between suffocating, I learned how to truly breathe. Thank you. Wow. That's great. Great stuff. I would like to welcome our next Sahara. Sahara in the house. All right. Sahara City.
This is my first time on the stage, so I'm very nervous, but thank you guys for having me. Can you hear me?
Do you want me to make it lower?
Low key, yeah. This is part of the poem, right?
Yeah. It's a dance and a poem.
Yes. I don't know if we made it lower. I don't think so.
Oh, it works.
You're fine.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. All right, let's try this. So I apologize. This is not exactly a happy poem, but that seems to be on par with what we're doing tonight. So I wrote this during COVID. My father's Mauritanian, but he didn't grow up here in this rich Dearborn community. So oftentimes keeping his faith was something he had to do alone, alongside temptation. So yeah. We grapple lost to the floor of our mouths, searching for a word in this language of conquest to name loss that doesn't leave you empty so much as it leaves you yearning to hold more than a ragged breath. Look, my father, years still, yearns alongside Ferouz, whose voice has blown the Sony speakers to a white static chorus, a hush of melancholy, raising a frail finger to its lips, what you might call futile or half-ass in its attempt to quiet the sirens, to hush Dre's 808 that shakes the whole complex awake at 2 a.m. Again, my father pretends not to smell the jazz, black and mild on my fingertips, when I serve him tea and peanuts, a shit offering for a man who cannot attend his own mother's funeral, who cannot stop for death, who cannot afford to feel and not for lack of feeling. Still a poet, even if his grief doesn't rhyme, with 16-hour shifts and several mistresses. Upon insistence, I pray. I try yoga, then pills, some prescribed, some pressed with God knows what. And still, I wake by the grace of God. I cut my throat on good morning, heartache, morning of light, to the drunken beat of my chest, to another face coated in crust, to a roach in the ashtray, a few missed calls, and at my lowest, I will summon the audacity to beg you to return me clean as a native tongue, singing the hymn spit into the cupped hands of an imam who gropes the cold side of his bed at night, searching for comfort out of God's earshot, but still well within his reach. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahara. So you're half Mauritanian and your dad's from Mauritania and your mom's side?
Irish American.
Okay.
Not the cool kind of Irish.
But what?
Not the cool kind of Irish.
Oh, okay. Another round of applause for Sahara. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to call up Nasir. Is Nasir in the audience? All right, there we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel free to say something about yourself if, for a few seconds if you'd like. And yeah. Nasir's looking on this one. Okay. All right, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nasir. This is the very first time it's not an English name, so when you spell it the way that I do, it's possible. And to make things complicated, I don't even speak Arabic.
Ooh.
So there is a revolutionary poet from Pakistan. His name is Faiz Ahmed Faiz, died of course, famous in the subcontinent, and wrote many poems about whenever there's political turmoil, I guess poets feel it the heaviest. And so after tons of their blood boils, a few lines come out. So I'm a little bit not sure whether I should recite it in Urdu first and then provide you with the translation, knowing full well that there's so much that's lost when poetry is translated. So I leave it up to you. Do you want the translation first? Should I go, or should I do?
Very long.
It's a short poem.
It's a short, okay, you can do both. Yeah, both languages would be great.
Which one would you like to hear first, in Urdu or in English? In Urdu?
Yeah.
All right. Let's. Hopefully, even if you don't understand it, hopefully the mood will catch you, and the watered down translation maybe will do its charm. Absolutely. The title of the poem is Aaj Bazaar Mein Papa Jawla Chalo, which means walk through the bazaar today with shackled feet. Chashme nam जाने शोरीदा काफी नहीं, चश्मे नम जाने शोरीदा काफी नहीं, तुहमते इश्क पोशीदा काफी नहीं, आज बाजार में पाबा जौला चलो, दस्त अफशां चलो, मस्त रक्सां चलो, खाक बरसर चलो, खूं बदामा चलो, राह तकता है सब शहरे जाना चलो, आज बाजार में पाबजौला चलो। और हाकिमे शहर भी मजमए आम भी, तीरे इल्जाम भी, संगे दुश्मन भी, सुबह नाशाद भी, रोजे नाकाम भी, सुबह नाशाद भी, रोजे नाकाम भी, इनका दमसाज अपने सिवा कौन है, शहर जाना में अब बासिफा कौन है, दस्त कातिल के शाया रहा कौन है, रख्ते दिल बांध लो, दिल फिगारो चलो, फिर हमें कत्ल हुए यारो चलो, आज बाजार में पाबजौला चलो, पाबजौला चलो, आज बाजार में. And for the translation I offer you, walk through the bazaar today with shackled feet. Eyes wet with rage are not enough. Love concealed is not enough. Walk through the bazaar today with shackled feet. Walk with palms open before you walk, with your head caked in dust. Walk with sleeves seeped in blood, whirled in frenzied throes of ecstasy. Walk on. Walk through the city of lovers, where every road awakes. Walk past the gaping crowds, the ruler and the commoner, past the slings and arrows of slander, past the happy dawn and the oppressed day. In whom can they confide other than me? I alone, whose heart is clean in the city of lovers, and who is fit to die at the hands of the executioner. Bind the heart. Prepare yourself. Oh, with aching hearts come, let us walk again towards our demise. And I thank you. This is a poem by Faiz Ahmed Faiz.
Thank you, Nasser. Nasser, not Nasir. And I know I know something about Nasser, which you may not know. He has a beautiful voice, and he's part of the choir. And he actually sang in Arabic, by the way, with Luan Al-Fantan a few weeks ago when we had a concert here at the museum. So another round of applause for Nasser, please. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to invite Mina. Is Mina in the house? Woo, all right.
I need to definitely do something about this. Yeah, take that. I'm gonna take that out.
No, that's
Fine. Is that okay? All right, look at you. Welcome.
just a moment.
So this is a short poem, a really short poem that I made about Palestine, and I really hope you all enjoy it. Okay. Scared to lose their homes, they trust that God will protect them. They make dua every minute, afraid to lose loved ones. They trust that God will protect them. Here in America, we remember them. We speak up and protest for them. We trust that God will protect them. Palestine, we hear your cries. We'll try our best to protect you. We trust that God will protect you. You don't deserve this suffering and pain. War is not fun and war is not a game. We trust that God will protect you. Palestine will be free.
Yes, Palestine will definitely be free. Thank you so much, Mina. I hope to see you at every open mic. I would love, yeah, that was beautiful. I love this intergenerational space that we have here that we're creating. It's pretty cool, intergenerational. Afifa, where is Afifa? Can I see? All right, let's welcome Afifa to the stage, please. You're loud. You're loud. You're okay.
Okay. All right. Hi everyone. I'm Afifa. I am an engineer and a gardener.
Yes, yes, clap for that.
Go do it. Okay. Sorry, I just want to have. How do I bring this up high?
You want to bring it high? Yep.
I'm a tall girl.
There we go. Is that better?
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This poem is in a couple parts, just kind of like a train of thought type of vibe. The title, as well as the first line, is the title as well as nobody could hear me. Okay, let me repeat that. This poem is in a couple parts, kind of like a train of consciousness. The title is also the first line, and it's, if Allah takes and gives, what am I prepared to lose? Okay, first part. Also, everybody's poems made me really weepy. This isn't necessarily like a sad poem, but I might cry, so be prepared. Okay. I began to compost before I even grew a single thing from seed. I was called to understand death before I created life, even though I went in uncertain, confused, knowing something was missing, but not having the knowledge or the words to define it. The first time I held a decomposing mango seed in my hand, I unearthed an underside of the diaspora. We are not only missing the sweet, tangy orange meat, we are not only slurping down the nectar that never quenches, nor are we only biting into the thin leather of a dried fruit. We are dying. Dying in foreign lands and landfills. Our seeds are not planted to feed our children. They are tossed into the trash, rotting and ruining their journey from home to this unsafe place, a lifespan disrupted. I had to work within the constraints of the yard, which was no compost. I stuck to my corner and scavenged scraps from the kitchen. I argued with my dad about it, his experience with compost, the rotting scent of vegetation that emanated from a neighbor's yard years ago. And now he is sure that I will recreate their mistakes, and he will be forced to either live with it or disappoint me in his refusal. It has now been almost 5 years since that bucket of scraps, and my pile has tripled in size, and I compost everything, even my disappointment. Okay, part 2. My mother tongue is English. Her mother's tongue, assimilated Italian. My mother's tongue is English, a colonizing language. My mother tongue is hope, a book of poems and prose written between the duties of a mother, a wife, a woman. My mother's tongue was reading. My mother's tongue was bleeding from teeth, trying to meet teeth with it resting right between them. My mother tongue is trying, pleading, seething. I downloaded an Arabic keyboard on my laptop, and now whenever my mouse needs a text box, the words are no longer in my mother tongue, and I don't know how to change it back. X marks the spot of my mother tongues. My mother's mother and my father's mother meet in me, their tongues wagging with wisdom. I know exactly where I come from, but in a very real sense, I don't. I know exactly where I come from because even though I never had a grandmother, not in the sense of a grandmother, I have 2 X's side by side inside every cell of my being. I'm them and they are me. I carry their pain in my hips and my toes. I carry the strain in my hair and my nose. I hold their fingers in mine whenever I clasp my hands. Just kidding, I have my grandfather's hands. My mother tongue in my father's hands, I cover my mouth to keep quiet. I smile with lips that aren't mine. Who are we but the sum of our parts? Who am I if I am the product of my parts? If A equals X times X, then who are the X's and why is A so tired all the time? What is a whole if not the sum of smaller bits? Why have I had an aching emptiness inside me for as long as I remember? Who am I missing? Why did I know as a child that there were questions that I'd never have the answer to? Small hands that were inherited pressed long fingers into my chest, an incompleteness, a hunger, lingering questions from generations past, haunting my genes, a switch, a light, a heat to embrace the planted seeds. My mother and her mother and her mother before her, I don't know where I fit in. We speak of ancestors, but what happens when your language has been colonized? What happens when your mother loses her tongue?
Yeah, you want to lecture people. Yes, I love it. Okay, let's do it.
Okay. I go a little bit crazy in my captions for Instagram, so there's just one I wanted to read out. I don't know if this is the audience, but here we go. I want you to take what you're learning now, that all life is sacred, and apply it to your immediate vicinity. That includes those whose viewpoints you don't agree with, those who don't look or act like you, those who are disabled, those who are houseless. Apply it to the squirrels and opossums and rats you find distasteful to be around, to the bugs that make you scream, you, a person, 1,000,000 times their size, to the cats you ignore on the streets and the dogs you run away from, to the animals you visit caged in a zoo, and the ones you eat without knowledge of the life they lived before ending up on your plate. Please apply it to the land that you walk, drive, and fly over, to the water you drink and dismiss, to the air that you never notice until it's filled with death and disease, to the plants you step over and walk past, not even think about life raised over from one moment to the next. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. The only thing I ask is that you pay attention, and that's all I need to say. A word to the wise is sufficient.
Thanks, Afifi. I love Afifi's posts. If you don't follow her on Instagram, do that. She's wonderful gardener. Oh, I learned a lot from your posts actually, so thank you. I would like to invite Reem. Is Reem in the house? Yes. Welcome, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, no, I got it. It's fine.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm a loud person. I'm performing a poem that's almost 13 years old. So here I'm just gonna start. It's called Obvious. There are things that are plainly obvious with no lingering doubt about them. Sometimes it takes years to understand them, and if you're like me, maybe decades. Sometimes it takes seconds, but once you know, you know, you know? But really, I don't. For me, Reem was Reem, and that was it. I did not realize that I was Arab until this year. Yes, this year, January 1st, 2011. It took me over 24 years to determine that fact. When people asked me, Reem, where are you from? And Boston was not the right answer. Reem, what do you think about what's going on in the Middle East? And it had nothing to do with the fact that I'm a political scientist. Reem, when do you think you'll be going back home? And well, that caused a head tilt, a look of utter, huh? Maybe I never internalized it. Maybe no one ever pointed it out to me. Maybe, like Du Bois, it wasn't until I left Massachusetts and met others of my kind that I realized that I was an other, lumped into a group, culturally, constantly striving, culturally schizophrenic, stigmatized by the media, a love-hate relationship, a sense of double consciousness, a group identity that overlaps me, encompasses me, becomes me. I just don't know. There are things that are plainly obvious with no lingering doubt about them. Sometimes it takes years to understand them, and if you're like me, maybe decades. Sometimes it takes seconds, but once you know, you know, you know? But really, I don't. And it makes me curious, slightly skeptical, somewhat uncertain, a tad bit bewildered, fairly concerned, quite suspiciously surprised to why someone has the audacity to tell me who I am and then succeeds at making me question it. Therefore, لست مثل الآخرين. I dream and I dream and I dream. لست مثل الآخرين because I know what it means to be me. لست مثل الآخرين because when you tell me who I am, I respond in poetry. لست مثل الآخرين, and I am the other. I don't care, nor do I question it. I embrace it, love it, feel it, put it in a box, gift wrap it, and stuff it into my pocket. لست مثل الآخرين. أنا منهم, which means I'm not like the others, I am of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Reem. Well, when did you write that poem?
2011.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you wrote, I hope you're still writing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your poetry. Are you in do you live in Dearborn? Are you local to? Okay, okay, awesome. Welcome, welcome. Wonderful. I would like to welcome, what am I looking at? Noor. Noor and then Hassan. Yes, Noor. Are we doing music, Yossi, or what? Oh, okay. We'll think about it.
Hi everybody. I am feeling really awash in all of the poetry that I've heard so far tonight. There are just, I don't know, like there's just so many conversations and intersections that I'm feeling with each of you, and I'm just feeling really grateful to be here in community together right now and always. I am pretty new to the area, quite new to Dearborn, and I teach here at the museum along with Sahara, whose beautiful work you heard earlier in the Writing Fellows program. And while I have a kind of new poem that I could read and that I think it would really be a treat to read, like in this like intergenerational community open mic space, I wrote myself some notes. I feel really nervous, but I kind of just want to use the open mic in a spirit of kind of just sharing some thoughts about something that I'm thinking about that's a little bit more like off the cuff. And I feel a little shy about this because I'm particularly scatterbrained at the moment because I am on my period and having really bad cramps. No, yeah, thank you. Yeah, take a bath. But also because of being like recognizing that I am very new here and have a lot to learn. So just I'm hoping that I can share some thoughts, but also that this can be a little bit more of a conversation. And also, it's about many things that I don't know much about. So one of the things that it's about is the NFL draft coming to Detroit. Do y'all know about that? Okay, so it's funny because I don't even know what the NFL draft means. Like, I know that the NFL is football, but I don't really understand like how big of a deal it is. So maybe someone can fill me in on that later. But something that I learned from the Dearborn News that I follow online on social media is that there's gonna be a big prayer area, like a musalla, that is gonna be built like in the NFL draft complex. And they're hiring like a contractor, out of contractor from here in Dearborn to build that. And I guess like I want to ask you all, it's hard, I don't really see, well, maybe with my eyes covered I see more, but like on first read, like how does that sound to people? Like thumbs up, sideways, down? Like what do you think about like this is the first time in a really big like football game, event, that there's gonna be like a prayer space for Muslims?
How do we feel about that?
How do you feel about that? Okay, like yay,
Thumbs up, thumbs down?
maybe like vocal. Like, are you into it? Are you like, eh? Are you like
something else?
no?
Yeah.
What?
I wonder if the draft happens anywhere else, whether they will extend that.
The draft? I think it's kind of like the Olympics, where it like is this is my sense as someone who knows. This is my sense as someone who knows nothing. Is it's kind of like when the Olympics comes to a city and then they build all this like stuff and it like in theory like boosts the economy but causes a lot of like fucked up like social stratification issues and like gentrification. I guess
How do you feel about the fact that there's a prayer space?
I feel like it's something that is actually like actually very fucked up and worrisome to me because of a few reasons. One, I feel like what we need right now is not just like blanket representation, you know? Like I feel like well, I'll get to that later, but I think that like one, I have strong feelings about it because in this bill, the name of which I'm not remembering right now, that got passed since October 7th, that is like conflating anti-Zionist statements with anti-Semitic statements, like legally. One component of it is actually essentially organizing like birthright trips among like NFL players to Israel. And in part, that's like an intentional decision that's being made and like a lot of like funding is being put there in part because of the strong links between the pro-Palestine movement and like Black solidarity with Palestine and the like current and historical linkages between our movements. And so I think that there's something about like false representation within the NFL like community and like stadium space that is kind of tokenistic representation, you know, like checking off a box, kind of the way that like companies like Target will do a lot of investing in like private policing and surveillance and then be throwing a little bit of money to like community representation or like marginalized identity at the same time. But like the discrepancy in investment is really worrisome and tokenistic. And I think that I find it particularly scary in the context of Detroit, which is obviously like a historic Black Mecca, a like cultural Mecca, but also considering like the strong solidarity movement here that we have, but also like the historic like lack of solidarity and exploitation that exists within the Detroit and the Detroit metro area of the Black community, like by people within the art community who like choose a more like white assimilationist route. And I think that it just feels like extra important right now for us to be thinking about that. Extra important to be thinking about where we put our energy. And I also just want us to be thinking about like demanding real agency and real investment, and that's kind of part of why I appreciate spaces like the museum. You know, it's like this is our space, and we can have really nuanced conversations here. We can speak in multiple languages here, you know, like we have tonight. So I don't know, these are just some like rough thoughts, and I would love to talk and share and learn from people about this issue and others. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. A round of applause for the museum, you guys. But more importantly for Noor, thank you so much for sharing that. You kept like holding your phone, and I was like, she's about to read something, and I'm like, is she? And then yeah, you said what you needed to say, and that was wonderful, really deep. And I totally agree with what you were saying, and it's really unfortunate that we always kind of distract the audience with like conversations about like religion and like tokenism and fake representation, and it's like, yep, we tick the box. You just have your little place where you can pray, and it always keeps going back to religion. And the conversation is not about religion. The conversation is not about Judaism versus like Palestinians or whatever it is that people keep going back to or justifying in the name of religion or Islam or Christianity. And so I wish we wouldn't like go there every time and have that conversation, because once you start justifying that you have your Christian space or your Muslim space, so we will have our Jewish space, which will justify all these awful things, then you know, you never get where we need to go. So anyway, it's a big conversation, and thank you for bringing that up. So I would like to invite Hassan, please, to the stage. So round of applause, please.
Thank you. I regret that I don't, in my life now, I am in my 80s, and I didn't really make the time to write poetry enough. No apologies, because other priorities. I'm more known as an activist all my life, from the time I was a student at Twain, president of the Arab students, to the present. But I find myself sometime in pain, and probably that's when I write most. And it's amazing that I could not write anything during the Gaza 7 months, 6 months now. So, but I am mesmerized by what's going on, and still doing the things that I need to do in terms of activism. And I appreciate Nadwa bringing Pape to our town. It's a breakthrough. Thank you very much. I may have told you last time, I ordinarily write in English, and in the last 2-3 years I started writing in Arabic, and it seems like it's a different realm for me in terms of imagination and reach. So I'm sharing with you another Arabic poem tonight. Untitled. ساد الظلم يومي وساد الدهر حتى الظن أفتى بأن الظلم حق وأن البؤس قدر ليعلو الجهل فينا حكمة في بلاط القصر قصرا للزعيم للأمير للمليك صبرا وحرصا للحفاظ على التراث عادت حكمة العراف كفرا وإرهابا أيها المعذب المنفي حين يرموك بكيف حالك من صغى منهم لجوابك لا أحد مفتقد منهم لحالك خاذلون أيما كنت لا موتا يرون في ماضيك لا نزيف بالحاضر فمن أنت لهم لا شيء ترجو ما عاد لك غيرك ما أحد خيمة فيك مشردا عشت أنا بقيت فيك بين لوحات الفنون على جدار القصر مئات في الصور فوق ضوء هنا تحت ضوء هناك بين إبداع مصباح فرعون وكابة من عهد لويس السادس حقر لك غنوة أزمها منقوشة في أزمها خيمتي في لازمة أينما أمشي في متحف الفنون أمام مسرح الأوبرا وسط المدينة أزم وسط المدينة أزمها خيمتي في لازمة أينما أمشي في متحف الفنون أمام مسرح الأوبرا وسط المدينة أزم الخيمة عينها دوما أزمها على برادواي بمدينة البرجين أزم عين العبء في الأعراس أرقص مرغما لقريب أو خطيب أزم ذات الخيمة في عزاء زوج أو حبيب خيمتي ذاتي بل بقائي بانتظار عودتي أو شقائي بنهايتي تسبقني ليبوس لي هناك حنين نابض في شلالا يخر في الليل حتى النهار ثم الليل إلى الضحى حنين ليبوس أحوم جناب القدس به قبابا لا آبها من غيابي بل حاضر خلف المحيط أحلق فوق ماضي بحاضر المقصر مذ فطامي بين ذاتي وبين أمي في انتظاري لصوص جردوا أهلي وراء النوافذ من بيوت في انتظاري جردوهم من كروم من غناء من طقوس من عيون من هناء ضمير الكون أينك غائب في قعر الرجاء في أذان الفجر يحلو لم يزل حتى الضحى حتى ما يخبو في غيابك كم قضى حول كل عرق في غصن قطعوه مقطوفا لغيري بالظلم مغتصبا لله مستحق لم يعد مني بعد إلا شفا ميت قط يسحو في جيوش الذاكرة اليوم يسن عزمي بغد هزيمة مستحيل لا سوى عزمي يشد به عزمي لوحدي بقيت وفي حلمي لا نوم لا قوم لي إلا يبوس ماضي المحاصر في ساعات يومي لكي ينقض غدي على العابر الغريب مغتصبي. لا لوم لي ضد الزعيم، لا الإسلام، لا العربان، لا لوم لي، لا نوم، لا قوم إلا الحصار في ضد النوم، ضد الانسحاب، ضد الهزيمة. لم يبق لي إلا حصار الموت، ضد الموت بقيت وحدي أتعبط طواحين الهواء، بقيت وحدي تعبطت طواحين الهواء بضلوعي بعدما انكسرت كل العصي في نزال الهوى. لم يبق لي إلا النصر في عناق الهاوية.
Thank you for sharing your Arabic poetry. That was very powerful. Thanks a lot. Another round of applause. Love that we have more Arabic. I know we are way past time, so it's like 8:45, and I thank you so much for staying for this long. We started late, and we're kind of like going over time. I just want to ask if you're kind of in the mood for like that's our lineup. I think that's our open mic lineup. Another round of applause for everybody. I just wanted to see if you're in the mood for some like music with Rafiq, like some oud, just for a few minutes. How do we feel about that? Yeah, we're good. Yeah, okay, all right, we'll do that. I think we have, while Rafiq is setting up, I think we have Layla who wants to maybe share something with us real quick. You have been amazing, all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I have a captive audience, and and there was a few people who were saying they were from Wayne State, and so I thought it would be a good opportunity to say that the Board of Governors on Friday are considering the divestment that the Student Senate had passed back in November. So several people are, including myself, are attending the Board of Governors meeting on Friday starting at 3 p.m. in the Applebaum, the pharmacy school on Mack Avenue. So if you're interested in attending and showing your support for the Student Senate divestment resolution, the Board of Governors is deciding whether they want to take it up in their meeting. So the more people show up and say, you know, we want you to take this up and to consider passing the divestment resolution, the better. So that's happening Friday, 3 p.m. in the pharmacy school Board of Governors meeting. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. So Friday at 3 p.m. in the pharmacy school. Send us the link, yes, and then we'll share it with everybody. Thanks a lot for sharing that. It's really important. How are we feeling, Rafiq? All right. I mean, no, you go ahead. You go ahead and do. Oh God. I mean, I play Derbeke. I don't play Derbeke. I just kind of do that a little bit. Do we have to make this lower?
No.
Okay.
Here, before it breaks.
Is that chair okay or need like?
No, you can sit.
You want to sit?
For me?
For you?
I'll sit.
Okay.
That's okay.
We are.
I'll sit. All right. Do you want to do I just have a lot of hope in you, like I did 20 years ago.
Right?
When we had Bob Hope, remember?
I remember.
And one of my influencers, Johnny Cash,
Yes.
you know, also 20 years ago. But nowadays,
People are leaving. Look.
is that Norm? Show you back. I'm not singing.
Oh, okay. So just like.
Yeah, I'll just wait. Okay.
There's something here.
Alright, so I'll show you. So let's see. So, can you keep that consistency?
We're gonna be here till 11 p.m. So.
This is a 4-hour song, so yeah, just do that.
That's it?
That's it. And then you could add some flavor if you want.
Okay.
Perfect. Just do it. That's it. Wasn't he great? Wasn't he great? I mean, I really like.
Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Yeah. I say Rafi's gonna play something on his own while we just kind of gather. So yeah, please go ahead.
No problem.
Told you I'd keep you all night.
I mean, feel free to. The show's over. I'm just gonna be a sad man playing music on the stage.
Is that giving you trouble?
No, not at all. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay. Let's see. No problem.